Welcome to Verbal Pick Radio, where we give you a verbal image of life, and we are everyday people. Like to welcome you all to the show. Look, today we're dealing with a host of topics, but specifically we want to deal with the COVID-19, the coronavirus. I just did a show with Marcus Mudd, and we were touching base upon what the world is going to look like after this pandemic is over with, right? And Comey comes out on television today on a live broadcast, and he was speaking up on how the Republicans didn't want to allocate money to the blue states. They felt as though basically they wasn't going to help any blue states, especially going into this upcoming election. And Comey pointed out $37 billion that were going to Kentucky. He said New York sends in $118 billion to the government, that they're sending out more than they're getting back. Trying to justify why would Kentucky be receiving $37 billion, considering the state that it's in is quote unquote a welfare state, right? And it led me to believe this. Texas, and you all heard talks of Texas wanting to secede from the union, wanting to go independent. Matter of fact, Texas really didn't even want to be part of the union, but we'll get into that at a later date. Once, it's almost like welfare in a sense. You remember how back in the day they were saying how black people were on welfare and was buying jewelry and Gucci and whatnot, and you were hearing white people talking about how they didn't want their tax dollars going to black people because they sat in the house and had children and were smoking cigarettes and wasn't taking care of the children and was getting more money off the system. And come to find out, there's more white people on welfare than there are black people. And states like Kentucky are sucking on America as if America is a big titty, you know. And so succeeding from the union, and I'm speaking about Texas, might not be a bad idea. We might actually have to look into that. I'm not saying, let's go full steam ahead and file the paperwork, but I'm saying, you know what, we might have to look into that. We're hardworking in Texas. We're producing a economic, strong money, cash society in Texas, to where we have the oil, we have the resources, we have some fertile land, we can feed ourselves. Mexico is right at our border. We can do trade through Mexico and hit Central America, So what would be the problem with that? I mean, we're just kicking out certain things that can come into play after this coronavirus thing is over with. Because if you hear some of the talks that's going on, some cities not gonna make it. Some establishments it's not gonna make it. Some stores are filing bankruptcy as we speak. Will people feel secure in traveling, i.e. cruise ships or on airplanes? I mean, things will never get back to normal. So it seems as though everybody is dumping out. It's like when the ship is sinking and you start dumping out the heaviest objects that's just carrying extra weight in order for the ship to stay afloat, the boat to stay afloat. Well, we in those similar times, you really have to now look into your finances. You really have to look into the goals or how you project to see yourselves in the future. And then you have to respond. You have to take action. You have to do your due diligence in making sure that you are okay, because I don't trust this government, and neither should you. The early reopening, of this economic strapped society at this point, I'm talking about the society in a whole, will cause a reemergence of this COVID-19. The death toll at one point, they said it would go to 100 to 240,000. Then they came back and looked at the model and said, no, we only reached 61,000. Well, we passed that. A vaccine is somewhat far away. I think we have another about 13 to 14 months before a vaccine comes. There are things on Twitter and social media showing how some of these shows were predicting and actually talking about a disease that attacks your respiratory system that would come from nowhere out of China, and we wouldn't know what to do with this disease because it would be new. That's in Hollywood. It seems like we're walking in a movie as we speak, and they wrote the script a long time ago, and we're just walking into it. You know, they sort of trying to copy or mock how the original man writes his history in advance, and then the original man walks through it. Hollywood is trying to mimic that, and those of you who understand what I'm saying, you know what I'm talking about, right? I mean, it's just so much going on at this point, you know, especially dealing with these early predictions of and warnings and signs that was there, and they're blaming Trump because he had a delayed response to the information that was given to him. He's saying no. As soon as he found out, he shut down China. But now we have this propaganda war right now with China and how they're treating the Africans in Africa. But yet Africa is fighting back, and you know, and I'm glad to see that simply because Africa has been taken advantage of for so long, man. Raised of its resources, treated its people like dirt. I mean, talk about them. I mean, you know, show the pictures of, you know, the babies with the big bloated stomachs and the flies flying around. And, I mean, you know, just the onslaught of negative media that Africa had received. It wasn't fair. But yet, you know, they took it. Now, we are, in the other hand, in America, especially black people in America, we stood up and fought for any injustice dealing with race because we know what that's like. And at a point we was upset with Africa at the fact that, you know, we standing up fighting for you all, and you all over in Africa and in the Caribbean using some type of cream to try to lighten your skin, and you over there got missionaries putting the white Jesus up in Africa, and I mean totally being colonized, and then we like, come on, man, y'all really after all the greats that you all had from Patrice Lumumba and Ghana, Jerry Rawlings, and all these revolutionaries you had, Willie Mandela, and for you to all to fall for the okie doke. Some stories I'm hearing, man, and I hope it's not true, that that China was loaning these the governments in Africa money. I mean, large sums of money, knowing that Africa won't be able to pay it back. And in the contract, it states that if you default on the loan, then they get your natural resources. And I believe Umar Johnson was speaking up on that. And I even heard it was Umar Johnson, and he was also saying how China came in with their own police force in Africa. That the end result is that they're gonna eventually take over Africa due to the fact that the population in China is growing so much and so rapid that they need the extra space, and they're looking at Africa as a place to house their citizens. You know, look, we got to wake up and educate ourselves. This thing is actually bigger than us, but it doesn't have to be. That's what I'm saying. We don't have to sit back and let others control the narrative and the direction in which we're going. But I would say, Texas succeeding from the union, I don't know. We got to look into that because it just might be a good idea. But I want to say this, though. If something like that was to ever occur, black people stock up. Get your weapons. Get your guns. The reason I'm saying that is because we're not dealing with no more racism. If Texas succeeds from the union and some of these rednecks want to buck up and try to do a slavery thing or try to practice racism, and after all that, our tax dollars and blood, sweat, and tears that we put into this economy, light their ass up. Don't take it. We took too much. There's no need to take no more. Don't even teach your children to take it. Hey, our dollar spend just as good as anybody else's, and we've proven ourselves time and time again. We fought in every war, so there's no need for us to keep proving ourselves to those who don't like us that we're okay and that they should treat us as equals. Throw that out the window. Just treat yourself as an equal. Learn to love you as an individual. That way you will know if someone is treating you the opposite. You love yourself, then you recognize when somebody's treating you or mistreating you, and then you give the proper response. But don't take no shit. We took too much, and it's time out for taking shit. Seriously. Another note for those that's asking, that who wants to donate to the show, you can do the cash sign on Cash App, Verbal Pic Radio, VERBALPIC Radio, for donations if you like, and whatever we do receive, we'll put that back into our research and into our travels to bring you up-to-date information, but also take you on an exploration and a journey like we just did in Mexico, and we're getting ready to show you all that from our recent excursion in Mexico, in Cozumel. And you may ask, why did you go to Cozumel? Well, because Cozumel, aka the Cosmos, is where all the ancient tribes, whether you were Olmec, whether you were coming out of Egypt, you would travel to Cozumel, to that site, to sacrifice or get your blessings for the upcoming year, whether you were planning or whatnot. Everybody traveled to the sacred spot in Cozumel, and that was like the Mecca at the time over in the Americas, right? So we took that journey, and we'll share with you all that journey in upcoming shows. We're just editing it and getting it ready, and we got some more things that we want to add into it, because actually some of those scenes will be in Everyday People, the movie part 2. But for Everyday People, the movie, it's on YouTube. Make sure you all go check that out. I appreciate you all listening, but I'm really saying, take care of yourselves. You know that Costco's now are saying that you can only get 3 packs of meat due to the meat packing plants that are closing. Walmart also, Kroger's as well. They're getting ready to lock down the amount of meat that you can get. But we know in Texas we got cattle all over the place. So we gotta really seriously sit back and think this thing through, or we as black people will have to unite. No more talking. Either we gonna unite or we gonna take flight. Now if you're trying to say, well, what banner or what means or what are we gonna unite up under? Elijah Muhammad gave you that. Business is warfare, and created a army to protect your business. What more do you want? And it's right in your face. If you can't pull yourself to respect the works of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and what was built and use that as a platform for yourselves or as an umbrella to get up under to move, then I don't know what to tell you. You know, it was the most successful and still is organization of black people ever, and it's still standing today. You know, and it's steady growing. So make up your mind, but time is the clock. The clock is ticking. Verbal Pick Radio. We hide.